I'll give a brief introduction about my model organism before I go into the talk. The title is Metabolomics reveals altered metabolic pathways to phenylalanine and its catabolic shift in Rubrivivaxbenzoatilyticus JA2. Brief introduction. As Rubrivivaxbenzoatilyticus JA2 is an anoxygenic phototrophic bacteria, these group of bacteria are metabolically versatile and among the microorganisms, and they can thrive under diverse habitats, and they also can grow under different growth modes. These bacteria utilizes wide range of aromatic compounds, and aromatic amino acids are one such group of compounds found abundantly in nature. And anoxygenic phototrophic bacteria like Rhodopseudomonas palustris and Rhodobacter spheroides capable of utilizing aromatic amino acids like phenylalanine as its sole source of carbon or nitrogen and transform the phenylalanine into an array of compounds. Rubrivivaxbenzoatilyticus JA2 is a beta proteobacterium which is capable of utilizing different organic compounds under anoxic and oxic conditions. And this organism utilizes aromatic amino acids and is able to transform tryptophan into indolic compounds and phenylalanine or tyrosine into novel phenolic compounds. And previously a basic work was done on the phenylalanine metabolism on this organism in our lab. So rubrivivaxin is one such compound, a novel phenolic compound, which was reported in the Rubrivivaxbenzoatilyticus JA2. And the genome sequence of this organism reveals multiple catabolic pathways of aryl metabolism under different conditions. So in order to see the holistic approach, we have gone to GC-MS based metabolomics. So my objective of my work is elucidating metabolic responses of Rubrivivaxbenzoatilyticus JA2 to L-phenylalanine under oxic and anoxic conditions. Initially, growth was measured turbidometrically under oxic and anoxic conditions, and the phenylalanine was given as a sole source of nitrogen but not as a carbon source. And the approach what we have used is the GC-MS based approach. Initially we have taken the oxic and anoxic conditions of control and the phenylalanine treated ones, and the supernatants were taken and freeze dried and then derivatized, then subjected to GC-MS analysis. The metabolite identification was done based on the NAST library, and the data interpretation and statistical analysis was done to know the variations in the metabolome. Hierarchical cluster analysis of metabolome under oxic and anoxic condition, it has grouped into two clusters. One major group includes metabolic features which are respectively present under anoxic conditions, and some of the metabolic features that were present under aerobic conditions were grouped under another cluster. And as multivariate statistical analysis like PC and PLS-DA also reveals the same, indicating the variation in the metabolome by grouping the different conditions under different groups. And the PLS-DA also explains the same, which is a supervised multivariate statistical analysis, and from this VIP scores were taken, and which includes the key metabolic features that are responsible for the variations in the metabolome. The metabolic features with greater than VIP score 1 was taken up, and further they have gone further, and further those metabolites were taken for the fold change analysis. Relative fold change analysis was done under for the metabolome of anaerobic conditions, and based on these differentially regulated metabolites, the functional annotation was done, and major influenced metabolic pathways were metabolic pathways were taken up, and the same was done with the aerobic condition also. And among both aerobic and anaerobic, biosynthesis of aryl metabolites has influenced majorly, and hence we have gone into the relative fold change of the aryl metabolites, which have shown major variation under oxic and anoxic conditions, and this relative fold change has given clue that some of the metabolites that are specifically present under aerobic conditions were the hydroxy derivatives of the phenylalanine, indicating that they are the oxygen dependent metabolites. As this is a holistic view, we want to look into the phenylalanine catabolism in this organism, and hence we have approached stable isotope technique. And as the culture itself indicates that the metabolome is different under aerobic condition in presence of phenylalanine. Hence we have gone for the metabolite profiling based on LC-MS, and asterisk mark label peaks are the one which are restricted to the phenylalanine condition and oxic and anoxic conditions, and these are the respective mass spectra that are identified under oxic and anoxic conditions. And phenylpyruvic acid is the one which has the M+6 isotopologue, and there are some unidentified molecules such as M+12 and M+18 molecules. And with this mass spectra and identification, we have gone for the elution profile of the labeled phenyl derivatives. The elution profile indicates that indicating aerobic condition is the one which has the high molecular weight isotopologues having non-polarity, and the same was reflected in the isotopologue distribution of the phenyl derivatives. And oxic conditions M+12 and M+18 are the high, indicating that metabolome is varied under oxic conditions, different under oxic conditions. And labeled phenylalanine derivatives under oxic and anoxic conditions was represented in the table, indicating that the green color represents the oxic condition metabolites that are restricted to anoxic conditions, and yellow colored metabolites that are represented were restricted to both oxic and anoxic conditions. And M+12 and M+6 metabolites, M+12 and M+18 metabolites isotopologues which were restricted to oxic conditions were remain unidentified. And based on the metabolites that we have identified from the stable isotope techniques, the basic phenylalanine central catabolic pathway called Ehrlich's pathway was observed under oxic and anoxic conditions. And also other multiple pathways like N-acetyl phenylalanine biosynthesis and hydroxyphenylpyruvate biosynthesis, and some other unidentified metabolites with labeled isotopologues. And in order to know the flux of the phenylalanine in the phenylalanine flux towards the multiple pathways, the basic Ehrlich's pathway metabolites were quantified, and then the flux was known. That phenylalanine, measured phenylalanine was fluxed towards Ehrlich's pathway under anoxic conditions, I mean 50%, greater than 50%. And some other catabolic pathways like N-acetyl phenylalanine and hydroxyphenylpyruvate and some other unidentified metabolites were also produced from the phenylalanine under anoxic conditions. Whereas under oxic conditions, only 30% of the phenylalanine was channelized into Ehrlich's pathway, and major portion of the phenylalanine was channelized into unidentified metabolites with isotopologues M+12 and M+18. This has taken us into the detailed study of the aerobic conditions of phenylalanine fed cultures, and phenylalanine fed cultures were taken up for the study. There are two fractions were taken from the phenylalanine fed culture supernatants. One fraction is a methanol undissolved fraction and another one is a methanol dissolved fraction. Methanol undissolved fraction was further identified as a pyomelanin based on the physicochemical properties and polychem analysis. And the methanolic dissolved fraction consists of different pigments which are having isotopologues +12 and +18 increase in their masses, indicating that those are the phenyl derivatives. In addition to this, in this organism a catabolic shift was also observed. Regarding to the melanin biosynthesis, the melanin biosynthesis pathway was confirmed in this organism based on the enzyme activities and inhibitor studies like salcotrine inhibitor, which inhibits the hydroxyphenylpyruvate dioxygenase. As the catabolic shift was explained in this, as I said, some of the compounds remain like hydroxyphenylpyruvate pathway under anoxic and oxic conditions. Hydroxyphenylpyruvate pathway leads to pyomelanin under oxic conditions. So when the cultures were grown under anaerobic condition, there was no pigment production, and when the same cultures were transferred to aerobic condition, the pigment was observed in presence of phenylalanine under oxic conditions, indicating that the hydroxyphenyl pyruvate which was produced under aerobic condition remain as an incomplete one, and when it is transferred to oxic conditions, the whole hydroxyphenyl pyruvic acid was converted to pyomelanin, indicating that there is no hydroxyphenyl pyruvic acid in aerobic conditions. And the overall catabolic pathway under oxic and anoxic conditions in Rubrivivaxbenzoatilyticus JA2 indicates phenylalanine was channelized into Ehrlich'spathway and hydroxyphenyl pyruvic acid, N-acetyl L-phenylalanine and some unidentified molecules under anoxic conditions. Whereas under oxic conditions, phenylalanine was channelized into pigments and pyomelanin in addition to Ehrlich'spathway and hydroxyphenyl pyruvate. And the Ehrlich'spathway and hydroxyphenyl pyruvate was two pathways that were commonly shared under oxic and anoxic conditions, and hydroxyphenyl pyruvate leads to pyomelanin production then the oxygen is available to that culture. The major findings of my work is GC-MS based global metabolic profiling followed by multivariate statistical analysis revealed the metabolic variations under oxic and anoxic conditions in Rubrivivaxbenzoatilyticus JA2. Stable isotope studies revealed the catabolic multitasking and the differential flux of phenylalanine under oxic and anoxic conditions. Phenylalanine was channelized through melanin biosynthesis and some of the pigment biosynthesis under oxic conditions. Thank you.